In this video, what I'm going to do is break down a remake I made of León and Erika Casier's BIKINI. It's a track that I really like. I had some fun with it. I did my best. First of all, I want to kind of walk through the sonics, how I got some of the sounds. Then I want to talk more about the kind of overall musical context of the music itself, like what other music is it informed by. And then thirdly, I want to talk a little bit about melody and harmony, not too much because it's a little bit boring. I will go back and forth between my version and the remake so you can hear the similarities and the differences. So this is the original when I'm soloed here. And then if I hit... And then this is my version. I think this I got pretty much. You can start to hear that the bass is a little bit off, but this bit is really hard. There's some sort of string element you'll hear. I couldn't quite nail it. It's easy to go hard on yourself and stuff like this, but it's really all just for practice anyway. I don't want to do this to come from a place of like, oh, I'm really good at them. I actually don't think I'm particularly good at doing remakes. It's just something that is really helpful to me as a tool for practicing. So typically like what I would do is take the original track and lay it out here. And then I would do markers for every kind of big section. Either I do it with markers like this and kind of rearrange them, or sometimes I do it with MIDI clips. So I'll just like write a MIDI clip and go like intro, first section. And then typically what I'll do is I'll like go through and be coloring these MIDI clips based on when big changes happen. And I'll kind of annotate them as such. By doing that, you just kind of build up this list of like what is in the song. If you do that through the track, I find that I have a pretty good understanding of like what's in the song from a linear perspective. What I like to do is try to find small elements that repeat. If I can kind of crack the code of like what little things repeat all the time, then I can open up the track. And I actually don't usually start with the drums. I start with like a melodic element. Whatever melodic element jumps out to me most. Here, the one that was easiest was the... I actually did do the riff first in this case. So then I would just start writing down. And you can do this with trial and error. Like you don't have to get it right away. Then what I would do is just keep going until I got the whole riff. Sorry, I'm not a very good singer. So this is like my funny little guitar pluck. I think what is really cool about this melody is that you can very quickly make it boring. I almost feel like it's worth listening to just the last note because I think there's this really interesting melody. That's really what's kind of holding the whole song together, like those four subtly different notes. And that was kind of a big opening for me when I transcribed this part, because I was like, oh, wow, okay, cool. It is very simple and it's just subtle variation. And I think sometimes in my productions, I don't do enough of this. Like I'll just like write the loop and be like, okay, that's good enough. And what I'm trying to get better at in production is like the last 20%, the part that takes it from like pretty good to, well, it sounds like a song. And I feel like it's a lot of this kind of subtle variation stuff that I don't always do. And so I was quite impressed with the writing when I transcribed this. I thought it was really cool. So once I had that, you hear it everywhere in the song. And talking about different instruments, it shows up in so many different ways. It shows up as like a little kind of clicky thing. It shows up as kind of a more like simple sine wave. It's just showing up all over the place. It's not complicated, but it's a little bit intricate. And once you have that, then the rest of it kind of comes pretty easily. There's some nice pads and just fun stuff. I really enjoyed making this ambient section at the start. So I made this like swell here with a filter opening on the microwave. The bit that I didn't do a particularly good job of is this kind of midsection. You can hear that there's like a string, like a kind of MIDI piano version of a string section going like bum 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 bum. I don't think it's awful, but in context it doesn't really sound that much like the track. the note is too long and it just doesn't have that kind of like ensemble feeling, but this is all practice, right? Okay, so let's talk about bass. Working on this section, it's very interesting if you listen for like how much of a filter there is on the music. There's so little high end in the music, and I think there's a good reason for that. It's because the vocal fucking rocks.
It's me in the bikini, the one I always wear. Find me daydreaming, looking up.
So obviously we have an M1 organ with a nice like low pass filter, and then there's a sub underneath it, which is a serum. And that's pretty much the bass. There are some 808s. There's like little 808s in this section, little plucky guys. This is a crazy patch. I don't know if you can make this, but really complicated. I think the other thing that I took away from doing this is like sine waves. It's just all sine waves. Like music is sine waves. And so often I would try to overcomplicate something or like look for ages for a sound, and then it's just like, oh, it's a sine wave. Great. It's like, look, there's nothing on it. It's just a sine wave. And even with, this like, this guy with a little bit of noise on it. Super simple. So let's talk about the drums in context. It kind of dies without the vocal, like the ha. Okay, so that's basically the track. So once you get the music and the bass and the drums, it's just a matter of kind of laying it out in space. You can just get acapellas now. It's the only really good thing about AI. You just have the acapella and just lay it out in space. And then in terms of like final touches, what I use ozone. This is a cool little trick, I guess. If you use ozone, you can do like a tone match. So you can pull in a file and it will analyze that file and then help create an EQ curve that will match what you've done to that thing. I think the main thing that is missing, other than cooler drums, is some sort of swirly effect send. I think it's missing a little bit of like swamp beach energy. I think that could be achieved with some interesting sends. The other thing that is way better is just like an openness in the top end, but is a fun exercise. It's a really good song. Okay, so you copied a bunch of sounds, but that hasn't taken you or I any closer to making a good song. What it takes to make a good song is like understanding someone else's musical context and then being able to kind of sit in and live in that musical context. Like this color to me, this kind of like twilight, slightly chill energy, interesting sound design, a kind of like ambiguity of instruments. Like it's unclear what instrument one is and what instrument the other is. There's just kind of the general kind of waviness to it. This is way more important than like, did I get the sound exactly right? Or like, how would I most effectively emulate someone else's song that they already made? Because songs are already made. Like no one gets a prize for remaking the song. It doesn't matter. What does matter is synthesizing as many influences as possible into something new that is unique, trying to sit in a lineage of music. It was helpful for me to think about, okay, what do I have in common with this and what do I not have in common? I come from Australia, like I did live near the beach. It's a very different kind of beach though. It's kind of just like suburban and quiet. And so it's helpful for me to kind of think about the points of intersection between my own personal context and this personal context and think about what comes easily to me and what doesn't come easily to me. And I think that's something worth doing, whether that context is, the social group that you come from or the music that you came up in, the city that you come from, like accepting and honoring that, whatever it happens to be, because no matter what we do, it's built into the way that we are. The last piece of this video, I just want to talk really quickly about the musical components. One of the things that I like about this song is because it's kind of riff based as opposed to like block chord based, it takes a second to kind of understand what actually is happening harmonically. So like what chord progression is happening. It does turn out that it is a progression that is really familiar and a progression that I like a lot, which is like a minor chord, then the major chord, a tone below that, and then the major chord, a tone below that. If you want to be a fucking nerd about it, you can think of this as like the 1 in a minor scale, and then 7, and then 6. It doesn't really matter. It could be anything. So for instance, here I just played G minor, F major, and E flat major. But again, none of this shit really matters. But what was interesting about this, it's a very familiar chord progression. It's one that's used a lot in dance music. As I was finishing this and as I was thinking about making this video, I was like, I feel like this is really familiar. Like, I feel like there's another song that uses this same chord progression that also has like a big riff in the same way, and I feel like it is something that is like very deeply important to me. And it took me a second to figure out what song it was, and once I did, I was thrilled. I was so excited.
Yo, listen up. Here's a story about a little...
Literally my favorite song for so long. It was one of the first singles that I ever bought. The primary school that I went to, they would like play music over the loudspeaker to get you to come back in from recess. This was the only CD that I had, and I had this song and 4 remixes, and I thought it was a really good deal because it was like 30 minutes of music for $5. And I remember putting this and the 4 remixes on a cassette tape and bringing it into school, and everyone had to listen to Blue and its various remixes like twice a day, pumped over a loudspeaker into the school for quite a good amount of time. And I remember being like, oh, I don't know if people like this. I don't know if this is the right vibe. But it was too late. So that is, again, 2 extraordinarily good songs, both with a 1-7-6 minor key chord progression and a kind of riff-based thing. That's it. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like me to talk through, or if there's anything else I can do in the future that might be helpful. If you have any other suggestions of things that I could do better, or other exercises that I could do to help myself, please feel free to share them. That would be very helpful for others, I'm sure. Thanks. Have a good day.
So are the people here that walk around